If a mild amount of free speech is restored to Twitter, will this result in the murder of large numbers of people? If Elon Musk follows through on his promise to reduce the amount of political censorship on that platform, will large numbers of people in so-called marginalized groups end up dead as a result? There's nothing wrong with your internet connection. These questions are indeed as absurd, incoherent, and laughable as they sound. It should be impossible to pose them with anything resembling a straight face. And I will confess that in order for me to have said those questions without bursting out cackling, or at least succumbing to an ironic and contemptuous smirk, a significant amount of intellectual focus and discipline was necessary for me to get through those questions. So why am I starting our program tonight by asking such blatantly inane and moronic questions? Because these are the questions being raised by our country's largest and most influential media corporations. In fact, they are not just asking these questions, they are answering them in unison and with almost no dissent or doubt included. And their answer to those questions is a resounding yes. I know it can be hard to believe, or at least it should be hard to believe, but the wealthiest, once most prestigious, and most mainstream news organizations really are explicitly and earnestly insisting that Elon Musk is about to have large amounts of blood on his hands. Why? Because he intends to allow a broader range of political opinions and perspectives to be heard. There's nothing else to it than that. To these people, free speech is not a fundamental right. It is not the linchpin of political liberty enshrined in the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. To them, as it is to all petty tyrants and authoritarians, free speech is a danger, it is a hazard, a menace, something that frightens them to their core. They see free speech the way most people see a raging forest fire, or a contagious fatal illness, or a violent prison riot, not as something that is scary, fatal, and that therefore must be controlled and then extinguished at all costs. And to be fair to these censorship advocates, which I will never tire pointing out that the leaders of this pro-censorship movement are the people who call themselves journalists, a state of affairs as surreal and bizarre as if the leading advocates of more cigarette smoking were cardiologists. To be fair to them, there is a grain of truth in what they are saying. To those who seek to preserve status quo power structures, to those who rely on lies, propaganda, and disinformation campaigns to manipulate populations and entrench their own power and maintain their own status, to those who seek to live in a caste system in which only their beliefs can be heard but no challenges to or dissent from their beliefs can be, it is true that free speech is dangerous to those people. That's why every tyrant and despot throughout history has done what our leading media organizations are doing now, attempting with all their force to crush free speech. To those who seek the power to rule over others, the ability to deviate from their orthodoxies, to question and doubt their assertions, to present alternative ways of seeing and understanding the world is genuinely destabilizing and thus threatening to their hegemonic rule. But these media activists and their left-leaning liberal allies in Media Matters and the Anti-Defamation League and official Democratic Party circles, they don't have such high-minded thoughts. They're not analyzing and thinking about power systems and how they function in this way. The reaction to Elon Musk's preliminary loosening of Twitter censorship is purely reactionary, just deeply emotional, almost primal. And it's honestly embarrassing to watch. And while it is easy to mock and necessary to mock, as we are about to do, what they are saying, also containing within it are some deeply insidious and important and threatening propositions. These shrill and neurotic and obviously unwell media employees shrieking about all the people who will die from free speech, what they're doing, unwittingly or otherwise, are laying the foundation for far more serious and less frivolous people to implement still greater means of stifling dissent and shielding their propaganda from challenge. Without much notice, They have already created a multi-pronged framework that is close to fully empowering them to ban all dissent from the internet. That is not hyperbole. It is not an exaggeration, as I'm about to show you. And there's nothing funny about that. The hysteria provoked by Elon Musk's announced intention to purchase Twitter and restore to it a modicum of free speech has been building for months. But two events in particular over the last week. First, Musk's decision to allow Donald Trump to return to Twitter based on the result of an online poll in which 15 million people voted, followed by a second poll after which Musk announced an amnesty to allow the return to Twitter of, quote, all suspended accounts provided they have not broken the law or engaged in egregious spam. Those two events have escalated the intensity of this collective meltdown beyond anything that could be imagined. The frenzy they have worked themselves into merits professional attention. And that's not something I say lightly. It has to be seen to be believed.